The night was cold, the kind of cold that makes your bones ache and your thoughts heavier. I stood at the stove, stirring a pot of soup, the steam curling against the window like breath against glass. My name is Diane, and at 45, I had spent most of my adult life as a single mother. My son, Ryan, now 23, had been my rock, and perhaps, in ways I hadn't realized, I had leaned on him too much. We were close. Not just in the way most single mothers and sons are, but closer. He knew when I was hurting, when I was overworked, when I was lonely. And I knew when he needed comfort, guidance, or silence. It was just the two of us for so long, through storms both literal and emotional. But that winter, everything began to shift. Ryan had come home late that night, again. He looked drained. His eyes were heavy, his voice quieter than usual. He'd been burning the candle at both ends, working full-time at a used bookstore while studying for his literature degree. It was his dream, and I supported him every step of the way. Books had always connected us. But lately, he seemed distant, preoccupied, worn down by something more than just exhaustion. "You look terrible," I said gently, placing a hand on his arm. He gave me a tired smile. "Didn't sleep much. Just needed to be here. With you." There was a tremble in his voice I hadn't heard before, and it unsettled me. "Why don't you lie down in my room?" I offered. "It's warmer. I'll bring you some soup." He nodded, not even pretending to protest. I grabbed a thick blanket and followed him. He laid down on the bed, and I tucked him in like I used to when he was little. A quiet nostalgia swept over me. I sat beside him, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. He closed his eyes, and for a moment, everything felt like it used to. Safe. Familiar. But when he opened his eyes again, something had changed. "Mom," he whispered. "Do you ever feel like we're too close?" The question hit me like a slap. Not because it was inappropriate, but because I had felt it too, the weight of unspoken tension that had crept in over the years. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't physical. But it was emotional. Deep, codependent, and perhaps too consuming for either of us to carry healthily. I cleared my throat. "I think, sometimes we rely on each other more than we should." He looked away, his jaw tightening. "I don't really have anyone else." I nodded slowly. "I know. But that's the part we have to change, Ryan. For both our sakes." Before I could say more, the doorbell rang, sharply, like the universe breaking in. I stood, heart pounding for reasons I couldn't explain. When I opened the door, it was Tom, our neighbor. He was kind, in his late 50s, a regular at the library where I worked. He smiled warmly, holding a small toolkit. "Just thought I'd check on your heater," he said. "Looks like another cold night." I let him in, grateful for the distraction. He moved to the living room and began inspecting the vents, chatting casually about the weather and books. Ryan stood in the hallway, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. When Tom asked him about school, Ryan barely responded. Later, after Tom left, I found Ryan still standing there, staring into the empty room. "You okay?" I asked softly. He shrugged. "Guess I just didn't expect him to be here." There was something in his tone. Not jealousy exactly, but territorial. It scared me, not because it meant anything romantic, but because it revealed something we both had ignored for too long. Emotional enmeshment. I had leaned on Ryan to fill spaces in my life that were never his to fill. And he had become used to being my everything. My protector, my confidant, my anchor. That night, he came to my room again. He sat on the bed, his voice shaky. "I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable earlier. I don't know who I am outside of you sometimes." My heart broke. "I understand, Ryan," I said, placing a hand on his. "But we need space. Boundaries. You're a grown man. You deserve your own life, and I deserve mine." He nodded slowly, his eyes glassy. "It's hard to let go of what we've always had." "I know," I whispered. "But love changes. And it should. That doesn't mean it disappears, it just finds a healthier shape." We hugged, a long, tearful hug that felt like both an ending and a beginning. Since then, we've both worked to rebuild. Separately, I encouraged Ryan to move into his own place a few months later. He still visits. We talk often. But the roles have shifted. The air between us is clearer, lighter. If there's a lesson in this, it's that sometimes the deepest betrayals aren't physical. They happen quietly, when emotional lines blur. When people begin to fill spaces in our lives they were never meant to. And healing begins the moment we name it and let go. Thank you for listening to our story. If it moved you, please like and subscribe to Broken Vows. We share real, raw stories that explore the unseen cracks in relationships. Until next time, hold your loved ones close, but not too close that they can't breathe.